3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hello guys, what is up and welcome back to the Sports Shift with me, Ian Marquez. There are only 5 more weeks of Premier League action, but still much to play for, so much to talk about. Let's get started. So starting us off, we have Chelsea hosting Everton. And Everton don't really have much to play for. They sit comfortably in 13th. They're going to finish mid-table regardless. I mean, maybe they can get a few places. They're currently level on points with the likes of Manchester United and Wolves. But that being said, not much to play for. Maybe an opportunity to try out new personnel. We already saw that James Tarkowski is going to be out for the remainder of the season. And when Michael Keane came on to replace him in the last match, it was a little iffy. Did not have a great cameo. Do they stick with him? Do they put O'Brien at centre back? Some decisions to make at Everton. On the other hand, at Chelsea, we know that they have a Conference League semi-final to play. They'll be getting ready for that. Still looking to find their feet, their scoring boots. The way they started off the season so well, scoring so many goals, the likes of Jackson and Palmer, but those goals have dried up. And Everton is by no means an easy team to score against. I think it's going to be a very close game. Chelsea are going to have to be clinical. I think they edge it late, but by no means easy. And I can also see Everton scoring. Chelsea like to concede the odd goals, so if I had to guess, I would edge Chelsea 2-1. Moving along, Brighton hosts West Ham. Neither team has had a win in the last 5 games. Both teams are in some poor form. West Ham just about safe from relegation. Technically, Ipswich can catch them on goal difference, but that's like a 20-goal swing. So, it's pretty much concrete. That being said, West Ham will look to finish the season in good form. Similarly, Brighton, they have completely dropped it down to 10th. And this season, you would have thought if they could find any consistency, they would surely have a place in Europe next season. But that's not the case. Can they find their scoring boots and get back to winning ways? Michel Pedro is going to be suspended following his red card. It looks like Danny Welbeck will lead the line. They have the likes of Matoma, Adingra, Minta. They have so many creative options, and it's really surprising that they haven't been able to find much form. I know that defensively they are still weak due to their playing style, but that being said, we still expect a lot more from Brighton. Their play this game was a 0-0. I think both teams scoring this because both defenses are so weak. Jared Bowen has been in pretty decent form, and along with the likes of Mohamed Kudus, I think I could easily see an upset with West Ham winning, but because they're at home and they do have more quality, I would edge Brighton. West Ham were very close to a win against Southampton, but a late equalizer allowed Southampton to claim a point. So we have Newcastle welcoming Ipswich. Well, Newcastle with a slight blip in their form. Aston Villa are by no means an easy game, but it was pretty embarrassing the way that Aston Villa dominated this Newcastle side. Newcastle had been in very good form up until that point. And with Champions League football by no means secured, Newcastle will need to win this game, but also win it comfortably, because goal difference can play a factor at the end of the season. So I expect Newcastle to run routes. I expect Alexander Isak to be back in the goals. His form has had a slight dip of late. They relied on the production of their wingers, Jacob Murphy and Harvey Barnes. With regards to the defense, I wouldn't be surprised if Ipswich nick a goal. They're always capable of scoring, and it wouldn't be too hard to believe if they are able to score a goal. The issue is Ipswich have so many injuries. Liam Delap being one of them. We know his future is uncertain. He probably will remain in the Premier League. Well, Ipswich will go down maybe for next season, maybe for a little bit more. They have so many questions, such as at left back, Leif Davis is suspended. So maybe that is an area to exploit for likes of Jacob Murphy, maybe Aaron Gordon off the bench. And some interesting options there. I do expect this a pretty dominant win. I'm looking at another 4-0. Southampton hosting Fulham. I would expect this to be a very simple game. You would expect the likes of Fulham to dominate Southampton, but Southampton have had the knack of scoring a goal here or there in recent weeks. We know that their situation is confirmed. It's been confirmed for a while now. They'll be returning to the Championship, but they've been playing football a lot better in recent weeks. We also know that Fulham have been very inconsistent, as you can see from their form. Win, loss, win, loss. They did have an impressive win against Liverpool, but following that they had two disappointing losses, most recently to Bournemouth. Can they get back to winning ways? I believe so. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they're unable to keep a clean sheet, and therefore I'm looking at the likes of 2-1, maybe 3-1. On the other hand, we have Wolves welcoming Leicester. Leicester relegation is also confirmed. Jamie Vardy will be leaving Leicester at the end of the season. What a career he has had. What a legacy he will leave, not just at Leicester, but also in the Premier League. Such an inspiring story. He came into the league so late, yet he was able to amass more goals than the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Didier Drogba, and so many other talented goal scorers. He leaves with the Premier League and an FA Cup, and it's going to be sorry to see him go due to all the memories that he created. But him, along with Leicester, they had a really good run, winning the Premier League, took the league by storm, and following that up with an FA Cup. Now, Wolves, on the other hand, are one of the most informed teams in the league. They are coming off 5 straight wins, the first time for a while that they've done that. Most recently taking down Manchester United, and they're in fine form. I don't see how it doesn't continue. I think it's a pretty comfortable win, and I do think they keep a rare clean sheet. That being said, there's a little bit of controversy in the Wolves camp at the hands of Matheus Cunha, who was set to be on the bench since his suspension. However, due to a injury, he came on, played his role, he played really well. He is probably still their best player. However, as you can see by their form, they're doing quite well without him. They've been winning all their games, they've been playing very well, they've been scoring goals, and fans are starting to argue, like, do we need him? I mean, why is he starting? Because we can see that almost certainly he'll be leaving the club. It's very probable that he's actually going to go to Manchester United. I mean, we know how United like to mess up transfers, so wait and see on that one. But fans are calling him to be dropped to the end of the season. They don't have anything to play for. If he's not going to be at the club, why are we playing him? Let someone else get their moment to shine, see what we have, you know? So interesting to see if he will start or not. That being said, regardless, I do think they have enough quality to beat the likes of Leicester. Strand Larson has been leading the line really well, and I think that will continue. Now we have Bournemouth welcoming Manchester United. Bournemouth have a very faint chance of a European position. Their recent form has not helped their situation. That being said, I still think that it's possible that they're able to claim the spot if they start to go on a run. I think that run can start right here against Manchester United. United will be resting players like Bruno Fernandes. We saw how they looked before he came on the field against Wolves. They looked completely lost, and I think that will continue if he does not start. United's eggs are all in one basket. They're only focusing on the Europa League. 3 more wins and they'll be back in Champions League football after finishing in the bottom half of the table. Crazy, I know, but it's possible. So that's where their main concern is, their main focus. I think Amorim plays the likes of the youngsters, the likes of Chido Obi. Maybe Ahmad is on the bench. He gets 5 minutes just to give his legs a run out, you know. But they're going to definitely wrap him in bubble wrap and focus on saving him for the Europa League. I would like to see the likes of Luke Shaw get some minutes, Mason Mount get a good set of minutes. Rasmus Højlund, he needs to remember how to score before the Europa League game, so he will probably get significant game time. Other than that, all the major players will be wrapped in bubble wrap, the likes of Casemiro, maybe even Ugarte, Meno, Bruno Fernandes, all going to have their minutes managed in preparation for the Europa League. That plays into Bournemouth's hands. Bournemouth do have a lot to play for, so they will be coming hard. The likes of Semenyo, Evan Nilsson, all looking to fight, getting the goals, looking to do the league double over United, as many teams have already this season. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, just because Bournemouth aren't that clinical, and their form has been pretty poor of late. I lean towards draw, but there's always bias in my decision when it comes to Manchester United, so I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth claim all 3 points. Now Liverpool will be hosting Spurs. Liverpool need simply 1 point to claim the title. I think they take all 3. As we saw in the replay of this fixture, Liverpool completely ransacked Spurs. The scoreline doesn't do it justice with some late goals from Spurs, and Spurs hate playing at Anfield. It's one of their worst venues, and I think that continues. I think Liverpool run rout. I think Mohamed Salah is back in the goals, and they clinch the Premier League title in April with such a low points tally. It's been a dreadful season for Premier League teams. Everyone's been beating up on each other. Maybe that shows the quality of the league. Who knows? That being said, I think Liverpool clinch the title. They win comfortably against Spurs. I think it's a high scoring game, and not much to talk about here. Spurs are full of injuries. Son is going to be out again still. Degashin is out for the rest of the season. I mean, where do the Spurs go from here? Similarly to Man United, their eggs are all in one basket, focusing on the Europa League and maybe a spot at Europe next season. Our final game of the game week. This game won't be playing until Thursday. However, Nottingham Forest welcome Brentford. Nottingham Forest are in the thick of it. They're right in that Champions League fight. By no means have easy fixtures. They have some very tough fixtures ahead, so they're going to need to rack up the 3 points. Goal difference can also be a huge factor. An important note here is Chris Wood is due to have a baby in the near future. If he does have that baby, it's very possible he misses this fixture, and we've seen what Nottingham Forest are able to produce without Chris Wood. Yes, they have a very physical presence in Awani. He can replace him as a number 9, but he won't have the same output. Chris Wood is very clinical. He doesn't need much chances or high XG chances. He always takes his chances, and it's going to be a big miss if he's not present. Even if he is present, I think Brentford just get the edge in this one. I don't know if it's a gut feeling or what. They had a very impressive game. Wissa and Mbuemo both doing their business, and I think that continues. I think it's a very cagey game, and if I had to go, I would lean 2-1, but I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling that I'm leaning towards Brentford. Well, Nottingham Forest's form has been a little iffy. Yes, they got the win against Spurs with limited possession and whatnot, but I mean, Brentford aren't really a team you counter against. They'll probably sit back and they'll like to take their chances. They don't want to risk too much going forward. So I'm just going to lean to Brentford on this one. So here are all the matchups, and here are my picks. Yes, the only draw I'm going for is United against Bournemouth. I think the rest are clear results. It's pretty easy to look at these matchups and see who should be victorious. Yes, nothing is ever that straightforward in the Premier League, but I think these 8 games are very predictable. And they're only 8 games because the FA Cup semi-finals are taking place this weekend. Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa, and Manchester City against Nottingham Forest. Interested to hear what you guys think about that. Who will be playing in the final at Wembley? Let me know. I wouldn't be surprised if Forest overcomes City. That's just been such an unpredictable matchup. Both teams have had unexpected seasons, and can that continue? I guess we'll see. Everyone would expect Aston Villa to overcome Palace, but Palace have been no easy beat this season. And although they've suffered some defeats in recent weeks, they had a very impressive draw against Arsenal, and I think that can continue. So as I mentioned, the Premier League is pretty much sewn up. Liverpool will be champions, whether it's this week, next week, it's inevitable. The relegation battle, that's a wrap. Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, it's been fun, but they're all gone. So what's left to play for in the Premier League? Well, the battle for Champions League. They have 3 spots remaining and 5 teams. It doesn't work, it doesn't fit. So these are the standings. Man City are in 3rd, Nottingham Forest in 4th, Newcastle 5th, Chelsea 6th, and Aston Villa 7th. Man City and Aston Villa have already played this weekend's games due to the FA Cup semi-final. These games were brought forward. So we can still see a lot of movement in this table before the weekend is finished. If Newcastle win against Ipswich, as you'd expect, they would jump to 3rd on 62 points. Similarly, the likes of Nottingham Forest can climb above Man City, and there's just so much to talk about, so many possibilities. These are the fixture run-ins. Man City, I mean, they have two teams in the bottom half, two mid-table teams. I'd say they probably have the easiest run-in, and I would expect them to comfortably finish within the top 4. Nottingham Forest, not easy. They have Brentford, Palace. Yes, they have Leicester and West Ham, but they also do face Chelsea. I'd expect them probably to come 4th or 5th. Maybe I do expect Man City to finish 3rd. Newcastle have a tough schedule. They have to play both Chelsea and Arsenal. Chelsea have even tougher. They have to play Liverpool, Newcastle United and Forest. And finally, Aston Villa have to play Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs and Man United. Aston Villa have already played 34, so they can't do anything. They can only watch the gap grow above them. You would expect most of the teams to win this weekend, so it's going to be very, very interesting in the run-in. If I had to pick now, I think I would say Man City 3rd, Newcastle 4th, and believe it or not, Nottingham Forest to finish 5th, with Aston Villa finishing 6th and Chelsea finishing 7th. Who knows what will happen? Let me know what you guys think, but that's the most logical prediction in my opinion. But anything can happen. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. Not usual that we have 5 spots to offer, but it makes for some interesting football and I can't wait. So let's look at some stats as usual. Well, this weekend there's no Arsenal, so for once Arsenal do not top the charts for the clean sheets. That's going to go to Newcastle against Ipswich. Although Chelsea's defense isn't great, they are hosting Everton, who notoriously struggle to score goals. One of their strikers, Armando Broja, who looked like he might be finding some form here and there, he is ineligible to play against his parent club. And then we have Wolves against a struggling Leicester side. And surprisingly, Liverpool are very high. That's just because of the quality of their defense, because they are playing Spurs. I know that there's no Son. They do have enough players that can create the chance to score a goal. So I'll be a little worried about putting my eggs in that basket in terms of Liverpool keeping a clean sheet. However, if you want to look at goals, Liverpool is a team to look at. They're playing Spurs. They notoriously love to play against Spurs, especially at home. I can easily see 3 or 4 goals in this game. Might not all be for Liverpool, but I do think Liverpool get more than Spurs, and it's a high scoring game. Remember that? We'll talk about that later. Likewise, Newcastle, they have been in fine goal scoring form. Both their wingers, Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy, and of course Alexander Isak leading the line. So many ways that they can score there. Interesting, Brighton against West Ham. A lot of the goals have been coming from penalties recently, so I find this a little interesting and maybe a little high. Maybe it's due to West Ham's defense, although they've been a lot better under Graham Potter, so maybe stay away from that one. Bournemouth against a very weak United defense. Of course, Bournemouth will be high. And then the relegation teams, Leicester and Southampton. Of course, they're going to be playing Fulham and Wolves, who both have a high chance of scoring. So now if you look at these stats, as I tell you every week, look at the amount of goals, look at the clean sheet odds. You can formulate a plan to make some bets. So using these stats, we're just going to take the most likely player to score from each team. With Liverpool, of course, that's Mohamed Salah. You know he loves his fixture as well. He had a huge haul last time he played against Spurs, goals and assists, and I think that continues. Isak, similar to Salah, has been in a bit of a drought recently, and I think he gets back to goal scoring ways against the struggling Ipswich side. Jimenez is a little iffy. His form has been a little troubling of late. I know they're playing a weak Southampton team, but I don't think the goals are going to come from Jimenez per se. If you look at the wingers, look at Sessegnon, maybe if Smith Rowe plays or Iwobi, I think there's a lot more likely chance that the goals come from there. Welbeck will be leading the line for Brighton against West Ham, so of course he's going to be high. And then we have all the supporting Liverpool cast. Cunha, this is expected if he starts. A start is not guaranteed, but if he does start, I definitely expect him to be among the goals. So here are my Prem picks. What do you guys think? I have Mohamed Salah and Matheus Cunha, provided Cunha plays. I have both of them to be among the goals. Salah to clinch the Premier League title. Luis Diaz has been in fine form in recent weeks, and I think that form continues. Mohamed Salah also provides a lot of assists to the likes of Diaz, so I think that continues. It's going to be interesting who leads the line for Liverpool. Is it going to be Jota? Is it going to be Gakpo? They've been sharing a lot of minutes recently. In terms of yellow cards, well, Lewis Cook is playing against Manchester United, and I think Bournemouth are likely to get the win. United are very good on the counter, so I can easily say Cook recovering. A lot of his players are out of position. A cynical foul, take one for the team, as I say every week. It's very possible. Joelinton, forget cynical, he's just so aggressive in that midfield. The amount of fouls he racks up, it's always inevitable that he gets a yellow card. I know he's playing a struggling Ipswich side, but they still have skillful players. They will typically be playing on the counter against this Newcastle team, and I mean, he's not going to get suspended anymore from collecting yellow cards because he has so few games. So I think Joelinton doesn't mind taking one for the team. Moses Caicedo, but usually I go with Marc Cucurella due to his positioning, the way he gets up the field. But more often than not, it's not Cucurella that gets yellow cards, it's the person covering for him. Who's going to be covering for Cucurella? It's going to be Caicedo. Yes, Everton won't have much of the ball, but when they do, when they counter with the likes of Ndai, maybe Beto, often than not, it's going to be the midfielders recovering, trying to slow down the play. And I went for Moses Caicedo. He's always going to put in a tackle, going to be aggressive. Very often, he will allow a foul. And so what? That's the game. But if you rack them up, it can lead to yellow cards. In terms of full-time result, a little tricky to pick from due to the limited amount of games. But I went for Liverpool against Spurs, Fulham against relegation-bound Southampton, Newcastle similarly against Ipswich, and to round off the relegation teams, Wolves against Leicester. Let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy? Do you see where I'm going with this? Let me know. So to wrap it up, I'm going to give you guys my best bets. Well, it's against Ipswich. The return leg was 4-0. I think a very similar scoreline is possible, so I'm going with Newcastle to win and over 2.5 goals. Similarly, I'm going with Liverpool to win over 2.5 goals. Liverpool might not score all, but I do think there will be a lot of goals in this game. I know Liverpool's form has been questionable recently. It took them a while to defeat Leicester recently, but that being said, I think they will win comfortably. Spurs has been struggling, as you can see by their position, and just fighting for his job. They're done with Premier League. They're going to be focusing on Europa, so I think Liverpool get the job done. Finally, I have Bournemouth versus Man United. I have both teams to score. I think Bournemouth will score first. I think United's big players will get subbed on late just to keep everything fresh, make sure they get just some minutes under the belt. And the likes of Bruno, maybe Garnacho, Mount, Hoyland, Menu, they do have a bit of creativity, and Bournemouth's defense hasn't been great in recent weeks, so I think they'll have a few chances, and I do think Man United score, which is why I went for a draw, because I'm looking at a very quiet 1-0 draw. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what bets you made, what predictions you're looking at. Otherwise, enjoy this weekend's action, and see you guys later.